we're going to start today by taking an in-depth look at the Los Angeles Lakers. We don't usually take a in-depth look at teams, but we're going to spend quite a while on the Lakers and look at where their problems lie and some of the big questions. Obviously, there's been some big changes to management over the last couple of days, and we have our self-proclaimed Lakers guru in Mr. Dylan Brown in the room. So we'll
Straight out of Hollywood.
We'll get his expert opinions on those issues. Just to set the scene before we start talking about it, obviously the Lakers are currently sitting with a 19-40 record. They're 14th in the West. They've got the third worst record in the NBA. This is all after they started 10-10. Yeah. So it's gone downhill.
Traded their best
really
player.
Quickly. Traded their best player. Now, there is some logic behind that, which we'll get to. But, again, they're defensively, in terms of defensive efficiency, they're the second worst team in the league. They're not much better offensively. This is a team that's stuck at the moment in a bit of a quagmire and isn't going anywhere. So, obviously, that's behind some of the moves that have been made. So, that is the background of the issues. Obviously, we'll start with looking at the big question or the big change, which is obviously Magic. So Magic Johnson has been brought on. We talked a couple of weeks ago, he was brought on as an advisor, whether now he's been upgraded to president of basketball operations, and Jeannie Buss has sacked Mitch Kupchak, her general manager, and her brother Jim Buss, who was head of basketball operations. They are both gone. Was it the right move?
Hell yes. Should have been done 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have even been in the position, but I understand that was their father's wishes, but he didn't know anything about basketball.
No.
He doesn't seem to care about the franchise that much because he never really watches the game. He just goes off and does whatever he wants to do. And the decisions that he was making was based on pride and not what's best for the organisation. So...
yeah, I mean, Jeannie herself admitted that she waited too long. Obviously, it's not an easy decision to say you're gonna, or to say you're gonna fire your brother's enough, but to actually fire your brother is.
And it's your father's wishes, but
exactly.
His father wouldn't.
No,
their father wouldn't want them to be losing.
Exactly. There was a time period given to Jim Buss, and if we just look at their win percentage over the last 4 seasons. The worst in the league is the 76ers with just over 22% winning percentage, and then it's the Lakers with 27%. Yeah. So this is one of the most...
And this is a franchise that historically it was either championship or bust.
Yeah,
if we didn't win a title, then it was a terrible season. So
I saw a stat where it was like they only missed the finals 4 times in their first 50 years or something, and then they've missed the finals in 4 consecutive years in the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's certainly not been a good stretch over the last couple of years for the Lakers. And obviously, there's been talk that they're going to bring in, I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but Kobe's former agent, Rob Pelinka, as general manager to replace... Oh, it has been confirmed? Okay. To replace Mitch Kupchak, which obviously is following in the Golden State mold. They brought on Bob Myers, who was a former agent. It's not a very common thing to do, to make a former agent a general manager, but Bob Myers has done a relatively decent job at Golden State, I think it's safe to say. So and obviously there is that connection talk about Kobe, because he was Kobe's agent. He does have connections to Kobe. Could Kobe come back in some capacity?
Back. He bleeds purple and gold. He's coming back. If Magic asks, he'll come.
Yeah, I think the Magic card would probably...
But what would his role be?
Well, they've mentioned player relations, but...
He never really had a good relation with the players that he played with.
To be fair, when he was injured in that period, he did... from what I could tell from the outside, was working well with all the players.
Yeah.
On the sidelines,
Even if he's just like the Clippers brought in Kevin Garnett just to help their big men and just be there at training and talk to them and train them. Even if he just did that for their guards, I mean, that's priceless experience that you can't really get any other way.
Plus, Kobe's mentality is if you don't want to put the extra work in, he won't give you the time of day. So if there's issues because of that, then I don't want that player being in the organisation because clearly they're only there for the paycheck, and that's it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, where to now for the Lakers is the big question, but the NBA has a bit of a problem when it comes to it's incredibly hard when you bottom out in the NBA to get back up. It takes a really, really long time. It's probably one of the hardest leagues if you bottom out completely like a Philly or a Lakers to actually get back up to the top. And they've put themselves, with some of the decisions they've made recently with some of the contracts, they've put themselves in a really bad position to build from. Obviously, the Timofey Mozgov and the Luol Deng contracts, that is now $136 million over the next 4 years that they can't get out of. Nobody's going to take those contracts off them. And they're averaging 7 points a game. And did anybody really think that they were going to average more than 7 points a game?
Nope.
That is an enormous amount of money that, for most parties, literally sitting on the bench.
Pretty much. And that's a prime example why
Mitch Kupchak is no longer there.
But I think that was more Jim Buss.
What?
Because I know Mitch Kupchak, he's better than that. But he had to go as well.
It's funny because I was watching one of the shows on TV. I think it was First Take, ESPN. There's a plug. But I was saying about Mitch Kupchak, even though he won the 4 titles with the Lakers, a lot of people still believe that was Jerry West's team.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that brought in Shaq and brought in Kobe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about as well how they've lost the appeal, and that's something they've got to get back. They've lost the appeal to free agents.
Yeah.
Hopefully he can, because, I mean, recently, because they had the money, $136 million over 4 years is a lot of money, and they still do have money. But, I mean, as we say, there was the LaMarcus one where he literally walked out of the interview because they were just presenting stuff that was irrelevant. They weren't even talking about basketball.
That won't happen ever again with
Durant didn't even get an interview with Durant. So, and then you're signing people like Luol Deng. So, it's Magic's got to make the Lakers a desirable place for free agents, especially when you got guys like Westbrook, guys like Paul George, these kind of players who are going to be entering into free agency.
Which they were looking to get. There were rumours they wanted to come, but with Magic, there's a high possibility they could be coming.
Yeah. And obviously the other one, they were Vlade Divac, who is the Kings general manager, came out after the deal that DeMarcus was sent to the Pelicans and said, we actually had a better deal than the one we got.
That was the Lakers one.
Which a lot of that's their owner, who we'll get to later. But the other deal was the Lakers deal. Yeah, and the sticking point for the deal, the reason the deal didn't get done was because that Kupchak and Buss were not, this being Jim Buss, were not happy to get rid of Ingram. That was the sticking point. And Genie wanted them to do it, and they wouldn't do it. That's the reports.
But to be fair, Ingram's showing potential.
The only thing, it's the question of, do you think Ingram's going to be better than DeMarcus in the future?
The amount of times that a guy who's averaging like over 25 points and over 10 boards is on the free agency block and you can get him rare. Is one in decades.
Yeah.
I think that but another problem is with his attitude. They've got a young team, and then you bring someone in with an attitude like that, it can destroy a whole team.
It would have been a risky move, but with his amount of talent, I would have done it. I don't know. It's there. Like, it is. The other thing is, obviously, DeMarcus is 26, so he is fairly young, but he probably would have been.
If the time frame is to be in a total championship contention in 3 years, he fits into that because he'll still be 29, 30. Yeah. So he'll still be in his prime.
But no, Magic doesn't have that to work with at the moment. So obviously they got rid of Lou Williams, which he's their leading scorer, average-wise, I'm pretty sure. That's a pretty clear indication that they don't want to win. They don't want to win the rest of this season.
Yeah, it's clear that we're just going for the lottery now.
And there's good reason as well, because this deal is ridiculously complicated, but the basics of it is if the Lakers fall out of the top 3 in the records, in the standings, out of the bottom 3, I should say, if they fall out of it, their chance of losing their top 3 protected first-round pick in 2017 goes up exponentially. So they need to finish top 3. If they don't...
Bottom 3.
Bottom 3. If they don't finish bottom 3, they're going to lose their first-round pick this year and their 2019 first-round pick. And at the moment, obviously, Brooklyn, nobody's going to be worse than Brooklyn. They've got the worst record by a long shot. Then the Suns at 18-41. Then the Lakers at 19-41. Then Magic and Philly are on 22 wins each. So they're not guaranteed that third spot. So
that's a good
tanking is not good for your culture, but they don't want to win.
But I think a good thing with that move of Luke Williams is that now D'Angelo Russell can show what he's worth because he's the main man on offense.
Yeah, he's pretty much their only point guard.
And he scored 29 points against Oklahoma.
Yeah. And obviously if we just go through their depth list, just look at some of their players and what decisions they've got to make, they're probably going to have to move some of the younger guys for draft picks. They got to decide if they want to do that. But, your Julius Randles, your Larry Nance, your Clarksons, do you keep them? Do you trade them for draft picks?
That's the question. I wouldn't... Personally, I see potential in Randall and... can't remember. D'Angelo. D'Angelo.
Yep.
Larry Nance is, to me, sort of just a highlight reel.
Yeah.
That's all I see him as.
Big dunks and...
That's all I see him. I don't see anything more than that. So I would be happy to trade him for some picks.
Yeah. Yeah, well, obviously, they've got a long road ahead of them. There's no quick fix. As we mentioned in the NBA, it's a bit of an issue. When a team bottoms out, it's really hard to get back to the top. But if they could get a top 3 pick, hold that top 3 pick, and maybe get someone like Alonzo Ball or some of the top, because apparently there is quite a bit of talent in this coming year's draft, but it is top heavy, so you need those early picks. But yeah, it's interesting stages ahead for the Lakers, that's for sure.